Hello, the Watchman of Ephraim here. This video going to deal with the Hebrew roots movement, Messianic movement, Torah keepers, those that believe you are bound by the letter of the law, the grammar of the law as it is written. This phenomenon that has began to emerge in the early 20th century, of which I was a part of in the Worldwide Church of God. But compared to what they believe now and what I came to see and still see in part things here and there, there is a great deterioration going on. This after beginning to, unfortunately, with much sorrow and torment, in early fall 2019, began to look into this group, the Hebrew Roots Movement, and I came to the conclusion, oh, by the way, out of it came a depth concerning the spirit of the Torah, or what now I come to understand as the Torah of the priesthood. Once again, this is a Torah-based ministry. So much depth to what originally I came to see is that we are in the spirit of the Torah, the spiritual applications of the Torah. We are under the Torah of the priesthood. So I came to understand, I came to see, and this is my, what I see, what you see, you're going to have to test, that this Hebrew roots Torah movement and what they proclaim is this: they are this latter-day emergence of what Revelation 3:9 says is the synagogue of Satan. And I'm going to lay my case out here in probably a few, maybe to several parts. This first part has to do with the false paradigm they present to the world. This, I have to emphasize, this is as one who draws all his beliefs from the Torah concerning the priesthood, where we are right now in this present evil age, the restitution of all things. This organization that claims to be the guardians of the Torah, coming in the name of the Torah, the Netzarim. This is a very, very evil organization. Here in front of you is a picture of probably what Satan looks like. The light bringer, the shining one. And this is the Hebrew Roots movement. These are the ultimate con artists. And it comes from their false paradigm, which I will hopefully explain to you and will make it quite clear. It starts with the false paradigm that they are in. These, I'm going to X out of these. I got a lot of windows here. These are the ultimate wolves in sheep's clothing. Because they come in the name of the Torah. But just about everything they proclaim concerning the Torah is a lie, or is involved in a lie, twisting, bending, distorting the scriptures, the verses, to fit their false paradigm, which I will get to in a minute. So I have a list of things that I'm going to go through to state my case again. You have to prove all things yourself, because this deals with prophecy. This is a latter-day prophecy. The message to the Church of Philadelphia, which existed back in the first century, applies for us today. I believe they are eras. Again, the spirits will be tested. I'll be sipping coffee and water while I'm doing this. And to the angel of the ecclesia of Philadelphia write, these things says he is holy, who is holy, he who is true, he who has the key of David, he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens. I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door. No one can shut it, for you have a little strength, have kept my word, and have not denied my name. Indeed, I will make those has been inserted. I will make of the synagogue of Satan. Notice, who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Indeed, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. I kind of like this version here. It's from the New Life Version. Write to the angel of the Church of Philadelphia. He who is holy, true, holds the key of David, opens and no one can shut, shuts and man can open, says this, I know what you are doing. See, you do not have much power, but you have obeyed my word. You have not turned against me. So I have given you an open door that no man can shut. See, there are some who belong to Satan. They say they are Jews, but they are not. They are liars. See, I will make them come to you and get down at your feet. Then they will know that I have loved you, or I love you. So this is a latter-day prophecy, because this church is promised to get out of the Great Tribulation, to escape it. In the latter days, there's going to emerge a people that claim to be Jews. Now, this is not, this has to do with believers. This doesn't have to do with that little country over there in the Middle East that people say that they aren't Jews, and maybe many of them aren't. This has nothing to do with those people over in the Middle East that go by the name of Israel. That's what I'm seeing. These have to do with people that are claiming to be believers, but they're not. And they say they are Jews. Okay, so I'm going to go through. Here's my pen. I'm just going to cross these things out. Okay, this is what you need to know about Orthodox or mainstream Christianity. They want nothing to do with being Jewish. They want nothing to do with the Jewish holy days or God's holy days. They want nothing to do with the seventh-day Sabbath. They want nothing to do with looking Jewish, dressing like Jews, whatever. Okay. But there is a people emerging today that want to speak like Jews or speak Hebrew. They want to dress like Jews. They want to look like Jews. They want to sing like Jews. They want to speak and write Hebrew. Excuse me. They just want to look. They want to, and in and out, they want to look like Jews. Of course, they want to keep the holy days and the seventh-day Sabbath. Okay? But, again, my conclusion, everything they say about the law is a lie. So there's a people emerging today that look like Jews, sing like Jews, dress like Jews, want to be Hebrew, physically. But everything they say about the Torah basically is a lie. Blaspheming the Torah. Okay? Mainstream Christianity wants nothing to do with with um, with Jewishness, of how the Jews worship God. Let me let me save that. Okay, so listen to what Constantine said concerning the Jews in 321 AD. Constantine decreed, "On the venerable day of the sun, let the magistrates and people residing in cities rest, and let all workshops be closed." So he changed the rest day, the Sabbath, to Sunday. He never really called it the Sabbath, though. And I don't think the Catholic Church actually made Sunday the official Sabbath of God. They just made it their rest day. They didn't proclaim it to be the Sabbath day. Notice again, Constantine changed everything associated with the Jewish traditions. Constantine, in his Easter letter, makes it quite clear that his intention was to completely eradicate the Jewish influence in the Passover and basically everything. They even changed the Ten Commandments, which is another video. This is what he said: "We ought not, therefore, to have anything in common with the Jews, for the Savior has shown us another way. Our worship follows a more legitimate and more convenient course, the order of days of the week, and consequently, in unanimously adopting this mode, we desire, dearest brethren, to separate ourselves from the detestable company of the Jews." So this prophecy is not about Orthodox Christianity claiming to be Jews that are not. Orthodox Christianity wants nothing to do with being Jewish. Okay? Let us not have anything to do with those detestable Jews. As a matter of fact, I'll run real quick through the 7 churches. Real quick. First one, just probably the first century church, thinking Messiah was going to return in their lifetime, and they didn't. They lost their first love. They burned out. Then you have the words to Smyrna. Persecution, the Roman persecution arises. They become hot. Okay? They become on fire for Messiah, giving up their lives to gruesome deaths. Then you have this church of Pergamon. This is going up from the first century up to today. Then you have this doctrine of Balaam creeping in. So what did Balaam do? He told Balak how to entice the Israelites to sin, sending the Moabite women in, inviting them to go and worship their gods, to bring a curse on themselves. So they mix themselves with the Baals. This is the mystery religion creeping into the church, becoming more corrupt. Then you have Thyatira, that woman Jezebel. Go back, remember, as he declared to his servants, the prophets. You got to go back in the Old Testament. What did Jezebel bring into ancient Israel? Baal worship, Asherah worship, Mary worship, the burning your children in the fire, the eternal torture doctrine, annihilationism, paganism. Then you get up again to Philadelphia, and by the time he hits Sardis, it's like the Church of God is so insignificant. It's like they're alive but they're dead. They're there but they're not. Then you have this Philadelphia emerging, and I don't think these people are here quite yet. I think they're here, but they're not organized. Just my opinion. It's what I see. This is the priesthood of a group of people with priesthood knowledge that are going to be pillars in the temple. What goes forth from the temple? The Torah. They are going to be the administrators of the Torah, as first century believers would be able to do. Because that's all they had was the Tanakh, the Torah. They didn't have the New Testament. They didn't go to Sunday school. They didn't go to catechism classes. They didn't go to the Catholic Church on Sunday, the first century Christians. It's part of the false paradigm that I'm going to point out that didn't exist today. So here's a group of people that are claiming to be Jews that are emerging in the last days. This is the Hebrew roots movement. Again, prove all things. Okay, now where did this organization come from? Okay, I'm going to begin to explain the paradigm. Let me get rid of the wolf in sheep's clothing here. I'm going to try to eliminate. There it is. False paradigm mainly comes, or what you see this Hebrew roots movement, this Torah movement, this blasphemous movement that blasphemes the Torah. People like Ellen G. White, and especially Herbert W. Armstrong and Loma Armstrong. These people moved out to Eugene, Oregon, like the 1920s or something like that. It's a long time. I was a member of the Worldwide Church of God. I'm grateful I was there. The man had a lot of truth. You were beginning to see what I would call, I hope I didn't, pendulum syndrome. Everything in Orthodox pagan Christianity, which is the Babylonian mystery religion, cloaked in the name of Christianity. From this man, you're going to see what's called the pendulum syndrome, I call it. One extreme to the other. What you have emerging now is called, what I call also and Paul called, the ministry of death. Because in the name of the Torah, they proclaim the exact opposite of what's in the Torah. The main thing is concerning the restitution of all things. These people proclaim that God is going to exterminate his creation. Most of it. That's so blasphemous. It's a very evil organization. The people themselves, they're not. I mean, I'm saying they're sincere people, but it's the paradigm that destroys them. These two move out to Oregon, and this Loma Armstrong starts hooking up with these Seventh-day Adventist Church of God people. And comes home one day and tells her husband, well, you know what? I'm not keeping Sunday anymore. I'm going to keep the Sabbath. That's the true Christian Sabbath. Keep that in mind. Sunday is not the true Christian Sabbath. Saturday is. So he flips out and is going to divorce her. Religious fanaticism, he called it. When he looks into it, he researches it, and he agrees with her, and then goes on the Radio Church of God, and then the Worldwide Church of God. Let me get a sip of coffee here. He brought into prominence, we can get rid of Ellen G. White. He brings into prominence, he brings back the holy days, he researches them. The holy days, clean and unclean meats. I think Ellen G. White believes in that in the Seventh-day Adventists. Brings back the Sabbath keeping, holy days, tithing, clean and unclean meats, for righteousness. They'll deny that, and to be saved. They'll deny that, but you don't keep them in the letter. You will be exterminated. That's the exact opposite of what these days represent. Now, this man believed that only a few, would be exterminated in the lake of fire. But still, error is error. He was what I would term a micro-exterminationist. The Hebrew roots movement, for the most part, they are what I would call macro-exterminationists, destructionists. And it's, again, the paradigm that makes, that brings forth the error. Okay. Hopefully I'm going to try to make this pretty plain. In this paradigm, picture the world here. This is their world. It's divided into two parts. The letter of the law, the letter of the Torah. Let's call that, let's give them the white, because it's probably the lesser of the two evils. I'm not saying the Torah is evil or the letter of the Torah. It's just not, we're not, in the age of the priesthood, it's not in effect. All right? Let's make the black Orthodox pagan Christianity. So pagan Christianity in its supposed Sunday Sabbath versus the Saturday Sabbath. Pagan holidays versus God's holy days. Among other things. This is their world. This is what exists. You're either in Orthodox Christianity or you're in the law. There's two choices that you have. And this is what I was confronted with between 2001 and 2007. On one hand, I said, Orthodox Christianity, they're right. We're under grace. But on the other hand, everything they teach is a lie. Concerning the law, the things in the law are true and are going to come to pass, have come to pass, and are going to come to pass. The Passover was fulfilled. Unleavened bread was fulfilled. The Feast of First Fruits, Shavuot, Pentecost was fulfilled. Trumpets is going to be fulfilled. Tabernacles is going to be fulfilled. The 8th day is going to be fulfilled. So I came to the conclusion that although we were not under the letter, the law was not done away with. We were in the spiritual applications of it. As I believe Paul proclaimed. We were in the pneumo, the breath, the wind. Or the pneuma of the law. Not the gramma as it is written. Which, through this, a deep wealth of knowledge came. The 8th day from Torah. New creations. The law of the priesthood. And not the common Israelite. This is what they push, the law of the common Israelite. So this is their world. There's two choices. Okay? All right, so if you engage these people and say, well, you know what, we're not under the law, the letter. We're not obligated to keep the Sabbath for righteousness or for obedience. They will come back, you must keep Sunday. You must keep Christmas. You must eat pork. All right, so this is their world. This is their paradigm. Okay? And indeed, this paradigm can and does exist today if you're in it. Okay? Here's the problem. This paradigm did not exist in the first century. It's a false paradigm. In the first century, there was no pagan Christianity. It did not exist. Let me repeat myself. In the first century, there was no pagan Christianity. Listen to what I'm saying. There was outright rank paganism, naked rank paganism. But there was no pagan Christianity. There was no Sunday Christian Sabbath. Didn't exist. Christmas, in the name of Christmas, in the name of Christ. The term Christmas, Christ Mass, did not exist in the first century. Easter, the Christian holiday of Easter, listen to me, did not exist in the first century. Okay? The Christians' day of Halloween did not exist. These things did not exist in the first century. Only rank paganism existed. The paradigm and the choices are false. Okay? This is what they believe. You either have, if you're not under the law, the letter, they automatically believe you're in pagan Christianity. Okay? I hope I'm making myself clear. Okay. My wife made a very good point, and here's another point. People that read the Bible tend to see things in white or black. Either you keep the law or you don't. There's extreme. Once again, we have the pendulum. My wife made a great point because she has trouble with this. Okay, let me get back to the paradigm here. Let's get Herbert out of here. Let's get back to the paradigm. Okay, this is what their paradigm. It's black or white. Either you're keeping the law or not keeping the law. Those that are in the priesthood that see this, you're in the prophetic timeline. You're currently in. You're part of the fulfillment of the law, which is not being under the letter, because you've died and were raised with Messiah on Pentecost, on Shavuot, and were raised with him into the heavenly places, according to the operation or work of God from the instruction manual of the Torah. See, let me get back to this question. Let me get to this question. People don't like mysteries. They don't, I'm not saying they do, but approaching the Bible, they don't like mysteries. They don't like dark sayings. They don't like enigmas, riddles. And that's what the Bible is all about. Metaphors, similes, allegories. They just want to see things in black and white. And this is the paradigm. And also Orthodox Christianity is just as much to blame, if not the culprit for this false paradigm. Because Orthodox Christianity believes that the law is done away. And you can do whatever you want. That's not true either. We are in the fulfillment, the timeline sequence of the priesthood in the heavenly places. Okay? Now, I want you to know, do you understand? Hopefully, I'm not trying to, this is going to be a difficult concept. This paradigm did not exist in the first century. This controversy did not exist in the first century. The controversy was simply if simply being, forgive me, was a Christian to be under the letter of the law versus the Spirit? Did you have to get circumcised physically? Did you have to keep the holy days in the letter, including the new moons, every month, as Paul mentioned in Colossians 2:16, 17? Because of what Paul saw in the Torah, that you were in the heavenly places, you were a mature huios, son of God. You were a finished product according to the operation of God with the righteousness of God from the Torah. But now the righteousness of God apart from the Torah is now being witnessed by the Torah and the prophets. I mean, with that statement of Paul in 3:21 Romans, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter. It is the glory of kings to search out the matter. People don't like that concerning the Bible. They like to see things black and white. This is the paradigm again. It's a false paradigm. That there is a Sabbath that must be kept. Which one is it? Now notice. Okay, now notice the propaganda. Notice the indoctrinal techniques. Of course, Orthodox Christianity is false, and these people are waiting for you to discover that. Okay, question mark. The true Sabbath, Saturday or Sunday. Notice how they indoctrinate you. They present you with that there is a Sabbath that must be kept. Which one is it? Is it Saturday or Sunday? I had the same thing. I was a drunk. I was ready to commit suicide. I wasn't a practicing Catholic. Okay. When this stuff was presented to me, someday maybe, never mind. We can stay on track. Look at the indoctrination from the paradigm that there must be a Sabbath that must be kept. Is it Saturday or Sunday? This question didn't exist in the first century. It was just whether to keep the seventh day in the letter or not. Okay? There was no Christian Sunday Sabbath in the first century. I hope you understand what I'm getting at. Let me X that one out. God's holy days are pagan holidays? Question mark. Which ones do you keep? Do you see how they get you? You know what? So what you're coming out of, you're starting to question Orthodox pagan Christianity. Okay, you're starting to research. And you find out they're false. You read a booklet like this. Oh man. I've been keeping Sunday as the Sabbath, and oh man, I should be worshiping on Saturday. Oh man, I should be keeping the Sabbath. You see how they indoctrinate you? They present you with a choice. This didn't exist in the first century. The question of the Council of Jerusalem was, should you be keeping the letter of the law? Should you be circumcising, getting circumcised physically? Well, the priesthood, we were circumcised, died, buried with him. Circumcision without hands, the circumcision of Christ, the sinful flesh cut off you. Fulfilling the 8th day. Okay, that's why there's no command to keep the Sabbath in the New Testament, in the epistles. Okay? Do you see what I'm getting at here? Do you see what I'm trying to get? There's a Sabbath biased, holy day biased. So you find out about Christmas and Easter that it's false. Oh, man. You read these, oh, man, we should be keeping the holy days. So they indoctrinate you. There must be holy days or holidays to be kept. Which ones? Notice the question mark. That wasn't the question in the first century. It didn't exist. Christmas didn't exist in the first century. The Saturnalia did. Rank paganism. There was no pagan Christianity in the first century. It's a false paradigm. Okay? Paul was seeing things in the Torah when he says the term new creation that points you to the eighth day, the first day, the eighth day. You got to go search it out. Okay? It's a false paradigm. It didn't exist in the first century. Get another sip of coffee. And this false paradigm has made them liars. They lie about everything. They can't fool me. I kept the Torah. And they forced me to go back in because I had my witness was shallow concerning the spirit of the law or the spirit of the Torah. Now the Torah of the priesthood, raised on the eighth day with the risen Messiah, yoked with the risen man, the finished product. That's why we are in the telos, the end of the Torah. Pagan holidays are God's holy days. Which ones do you keep? Notice the question mark. Pagan holidays are God's holy days. Which? Oh, man. I've been keeping Easter. Man. I've been keeping the wrong days. The paradigm did not exist in the first century. I'll illustrate it hopefully a little better, okay? All right, here. Orthodox Christianity. Hey, how about some Peeps? Chocolate egg. Christmas tree, right? Let me go back. Let me get out of this. Okay. Let me go back. Okay. Darn it. Halloween. Easter eggs. Santa. So Paul supposedly says the law is done away with. That's a lie. He did not say that. He said you were in the spirit, not in the letter. The pneuma, not the gramma. The pneuma, what the law is intended to pointing to. Versus the gramma, how it's written. Instead of eating a lamb in a cedar plate and eating unleavened bread physically for 7 days as your righteousness is a man who gave himself on the Passover. It's the Spirit of God in you that unleavens you, gets rid of the sin. Okay? If you were to ask a first century person, hey, Paul said the law's done away with. Hey, you're going to start keeping Christmas? You know what the guy would say? What's that? What's Christmas? Hey, you know what? You're going to dress up like Santa this year because Paul proclaimed that, we're not under the law, man. Hey, you know what? You're going to dress up like Santa, have a little fun with the kids, put them on your lap. Who's Santa Claus? It didn't exist, man. It's a false paradigm. Hey, man, you going to carve some pumpkins this Halloween now that, we're under the law? Didn't have pumpkins in Europe. I think they're in America only. They used to, like, carve gourds and stuff. Hey, you going to, get some eggs and paint some eggs this Easter? Because, hey, we're not under the law, man. We can... What are you talking about, man? What, have you been drinking Drano or something? What are you, gargling with bourbon? Never heard of it before. It's a false paradigm, man. A couple days ago, I got involved with a guy, I hate to say, I wish, I gotta stop, I gotta be conscious of my speech. It was on a Universalist site. No, wait, it wasn't. It was on some other site. I tangoed with a Torah keeper. Here he comes parading out. No, I don't keep the law. And he comes parading out, pagan holidays versus, there I go again, pagan holidays versus God's holy days. Parading out that I eat pork. Parading out that I keep Sunday. I mean, I get it. It's the false paradigm. Didn't exist in the first century. Hey, man, you're gonna... Hey, you gonna dress the kids up like goblins, demons this Halloween now that we're not under the law? What are you talking about, man? It's a false paradigm. You get it? Didn't exist. Pagan Christian holidays did not exist in the first century. All right. Sunday is not the Sabbath. He's correct, Arthur Bailey. The Sabbath has always been the seventh day. The problem is we're not in the seventh day. We're in the eighth day. We're new creations. We're not part of the old creation. We're going to rule over the millennium. This question of which Christian Sabbath should you be keeping did not exist in the first century. It was the rank pagan venerable day of the sun, Sunday, that the pagans kept. There was no going to church on Sunday. Although Gentiles did keep the eighth day. There were Gentiles that did keep, that is recorded. They called it the eighth day. They didn't call it the Sabbath. They just met there and worshiped God on the day that Messiah rose from the dead. But now Messiah is risen, has become the first fruits of those that slept. 1 Corinthians 15:20. They didn't call it the Sabbath day. They didn't call it the day of the sun, whatever. It's called it the eighth day. Binding these things for righteousness, for salvation. And don't think they'll tell you, oh, we don't do that. But you debate them enough, it'll come out. I know, I kept the law. I know how these people think because I thought just like them. You lean on the law for your righteousness. The letter, that is. In reality, you're in the heavenlies through the Torah. And they've been given the righteousness of God himself. White garments. It's a false paradigm. Okay? X out. X out. Once again, this stuff did not exist in the first century. Christmas, Easter, Halloween, it didn't exist. These Christian festivals did not exist. They're false paradigms. It's a false paradigm. Okay? All right, now, this is what existed in the first century. This is the Saturnalia, a month-long drunken Roman festival celebrating the planet Saturn. The eater of children. Devourer of children. This is what it looked like if you were a first century Christian. Man, get up in a toga, man. Hang out with some Roman soldiers. It wasn't called Christmas. The whole thing's a bogus paradigm. Okay? Didn't exist. Once again, Herbert W. Armstrong. Okay. Real quick, the history. Since the 20th century, different religious organizations have been teaching a belief in Jesus called Yeshua by adherents as mankind's redeemer and savior from man's own sinful nature, and a lifestyle in keeping with the Torah, the Sabbath, and the annual feasts, the Moedim holy days. These include Messianic Judaism, to a very limited degree, in 1916, the Sacred Name Movement, in 1937, and the Worldwide Church of God. In the 1930s and later, the Hebrew Roots Movement. Thus far, the Worldwide Church of God has been the greatest impact on all organizations which teach these beliefs, including obedience to much of the Old Testament law, both nationally and internationally. What's deteriorated so bad? There was a woman on a Hebrew Roots group in Facebook. She was asking a question whether she could serve the Passover if she was in her impurity or after she had a kid. So this is how bad it's getting. And again, probably the biggest lie is God is going to exterminate humanity because, they didn't keep the law of Moses. Or they were wicked. The Torah is God's instruction manual to the Son and to the priests. It's our priesthood is in Leviticus, in dark sayings, shadows, mysteries, including the leper judgment, which is the sinner judgment, which is the destruction of the sinful garment outside the camp instead of being stoned to death, which these people are witnessing. You're going to be doing in the age to come. So since the Worldwide Church of God, it has been a deterioration in truth, because they're so much into the letter. Hey, why don't I just go to it here? 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Paul said it good. You want to be in the letter of the Torah in this age? You're out of place. You're wanting to be a common Israelite. This is another destructive thing that they teach. Unwittingly. That you're under the law, the Torah of the common Israelite. You know what happens? You're not going to be heir with those of the Spirit, with those of Sarah, with those of the covenant of promise. Let me go to New King James. Verse 7, but if the ministry of death, written engraved on stones, was glorious, so that the children of Israel could not look steadily at the face of Moses because of the glory of his countenance, which the glory which was passing away. They lie about these verses too, which I will show you in the future. I might skip, this is part 1, I might skip around, come back to this later for part 2. I just wanted to get this one going. The letter, the ministry of death. What do they witness? Hey, they're like their father Moses. Nobody loves Moses more than me. But you got to understand what it points to and where you are in the timeline of the fulfillment of the law. There I go. I got the words. That's what they witness, the ministry of death. Witnessing the exact opposite of what the Torah is. And what is the work of Satan? The destruction of humanity. What did Messiah come to do? To destroy the works of the devil. What do these people do? They uphold the work of the devil. Okay. So their paradigm of which day should you keep as the Sabbath? Which day of worship, which was actually a tradition or a custom of the Jews was. The command originally was to stay in your homes, not to kindle a fire. That custom emerged when they were captives in Babylon. They brought it back with them when God allowed them to return to the land. That's why it always says in his custom was they went into the synagogue on the Sabbath. We'll get into these things like were the apostles admonishing the new Gentile believers to go to the synagogues to learn about Torah. Man, you didn't want to go to the synagogues. The Jews were the persecutors in the first century. It flipped and changed later on. So this pagan Christianity did not emerge until the Constantine, as I read to you. It didn't get organized until the early 300s. This pagan Christianity did not exist in the first century. The questions were not about should we keep Saturday or Sunday? Should we keep the Sabbath or Sunday? It was about should you keep the law in the letter for justification, for righteousness? That's what it was about. Okay. So I wanted to do this part 1, exposing their false paradigm, pendulum syndrome. That's what you got. It's so weird now that people want to look like Jews, grow beards, dress up like rabbis, wear beanies, prayer shawls, tassels, and all they've done is destroy their inheritance. They won't be heirs. And again, Orthodox Christianity and their lies that the law is done away with and you can do whatever you want. Everything man does is strange. So this paradigm didn't exist. It's a false paradigm. Which days you should keep. It wasn't about which days you should keep. It was simply concerning the letter of the Torah. Orthodox pagan Christianity did not exist in the first century. So I hope that makes sense, because it's the truth. So, end of part 1. Thank you for your time and thank you for listening.